When I woke up, everything was white. Not the kind of white you see in dreams. Too sharp, too sterile. The hum of machines, the sting of disinfectant in the air. My arm was hooked up to N4. My ribs felt like they'd been set on fire and stomped out again. I tried to move, but pain locked me down. My head spun. Then a voice. Don't move too fast, man. You lucky to even be breathing. I turned my head. Darnell was sitting in the corner, hoodie up, eyes heavy. He looked older somehow. Harder. What happened? I croaked. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You happened, he said quietly. Cops found you bleeding out on Vernon. Said it looked like a war zone. You dropped 5 of them before you went down. They thought you was dead too. I blinked. My mouth was dry as sandpaper. How long? 2 weeks. 2 weeks. That number hit me harder than the pain. I looked around. Hospital room, cheap curtains, the faint smell of blood and bleach. My clothes were gone. My chain too. Where's everybody? I asked. Darnell's face dropped. He looked down at the floor. Ain't no everybody left. The silence was a punch to the gut. He rubbed his palms together. After that last night, the Crips pulled out. Police been flooding the area since. They tearing down the old buildings. You seen the corner store? I nodded weakly. Gone, he said. They talking about building condos. Some tech company moving in. They calling it urban renewal. I laughed bitterly, then winced from the pain. Ain't nothing to renew. He sighed. They talking everything, bro. Streets, names, memories, all of it. I stared up at the ceiling. The beeping of the heart monitor felt like a clock ticking down the end of something bigger than me. Doctor said you might not walk right for a while, he added. That bullet in your side nicked bone. I didn't care. None of that mattered. The only thing that hurt worse than my body was my soul. Darnell reached into his jacket and pulled out something small, a folded bandana. Red, faded, blood-stained. He placed it on the table beside my bed. I found this where you fell, he said. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Just the sound of machines breathing for me. Finally, I asked, why'd you come back? He shrugged. You think I was gone let you die alone? After everything? I smiled weakly. You always was stubborn. Guess we both are. He leaned back, exhaling slow. Listen, when you get out, you gotta make a choice. You can't keep living like this. You got a chance, start over. Don't waste it. I didn't answer. He stood up, adjusted his hoodie. You know where to find me. Then he left. The door clicked shut, and the room was quiet again. For the first time in years, I felt empty. Not scared. Not angry. Just hollow. I looked at that red bandana on the table. All the weight it carried. Loyalty. Blood. Pain. Every thread soaked in history. And I wondered if it ever meant anything at all. A week later, they let me out. No celebration, no family waiting. Just a wheelchair, a set of papers, and a bus ticket. I didn't go far. Couldn't. My legs still weak, my ribs wrapped tight. The block looked different in daylight. Construction crews everywhere. Bright orange fences. For sale signs stabbed into cracked sidewalks. They were erasing us one brick at a time. I wheeled past the corner where Miss Gloria's house used to stand. Nothing left but dust. No flowers. No porch. Farther down, the mural of Kilo was gone too. Painted over. Just gray concrete now. I stopped there for a long time. The world moved around me. Cars passing, people talking, but I didn't hear any of it. Just the ghosts. Every voice I'd ever known whispered through the wind. Every laugh, every scream, every promise. The streets don't die all at once. They fade, and I was watching mine disappear. I found a room above a mechanic's shop near Florence Avenue. The rent was cheap, probably because the ceiling leaked and the lights buzzed like they were scared to stay on. I worked for the shop's owner, old Mexican dude named Hector. Didn't ask questions. Just said, if you on time and don't steal, you good. It was the first honest job I'd ever had. I spent my days fixing engines, wiping grease off my hands, and trying not to think about the past. But the past don't care what you want. It finds you anyway. Every night, I'd hear the echo of gunfire in my dreams. I'd see Trey's eyes, Deuce's blood, Darnell's face when he told me to leave. Sometimes I'd wake up reaching for a gun that wasn't there. One night, Hector came by with a beer. He looked at me and said, "You got soldier eyes, Iho. You been through something?" I didn't answer. He nodded like he already knew. You know what my papa used to say? Streets don't love you. They rent you. When you done paying, they evict you. I thought about that all night. Maybe that's what happened. The block evicted me. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was unfinished. A month later, I was walking home from the shop when I saw them. 3 kids on the corner. Young, maybe 16. Red bandanas hanging from their pockets. My first thought was pride, then fear. They were standing under a streetlight, arguing loud. One of them flashed a pistol like it was jewelry. I stopped across the street, watching. The smallest one, skinny, nervous, looked like he didn't even belong there. The other 2 were hyping him up, laughing, daring him to prove himself. I saw myself in him. The same hunger, the same stupidity. Before I knew it, I was crossing the street. They noticed me immediately. "Yo, what's good, OG?" One said, grinning. "Yantinul, Isite." They laughed. "Man, you look like one." The kid with the gun pointed it at the ground, half smiling. "You from round here?" "Used to be." "Word?" "You blood." I hesitated. Then I looked him dead in the eye. "Was." That made him pause. "You know what that mean?" I asked. He shrugged. "Means you one of us." I shook my head. "Nah, means I buried more brothers than I can count." The smallest one lowered his head. The other 2 got quiet. "You think this life make you real?" I said, stepping closer. "It don't. It just make you empty. Every choice you make out here, every trigger you pull, it takes something from you. Something you don't get back." They didn't speak. I could see the doubt in that young one's eyes. The same doubt I used to bury deep. Finally, I said, "You want to be remembered? Leave before they remember you as another name on a wall." I turned to walk away. One of them called out, "Yo, you really used to bang?" I stopped, looked back. "Yeah." "What happened?" I took a deep breath. "I survived." Then I walked off into the night. After that, something changed in me. For years, I thought loyalty meant dying for the block. Now I realized maybe loyalty meant living for the ones who couldn't. So I started showing up at the youth center down on Hoover, the same one I used to skip as a kid. Rundown place, half-funded, but still open. They were doing an outreach program for at-risk teens. The lady running it, Ms. Elena, recognized me right away. "You're Marcus Bell," she said, cautious. "You used to be with East Vernon." I nodded. She studied me for a long second. "You're not here to recruit, are you?" I almost laughed. "Nah, I'm done with that life." "Then why are you here?" I looked around, the walls covered in art, the kids laughing in the corner, the smell of cheap pizza and spray paint. "'Cause somebody should be," I said. Weeks turned into months. I helped fix the place up, painted walls, repaired doors, even set up a small studio for the kids to record music. At first, they didn't trust me. I could see it in their eyes, that mix of curiosity and fear. But little by little, they started asking questions. "Yo, you ever shoot somebody? Why'd you join? What's it like?" I told them the truth. Not the glorified version, the real version. The blood, the guilt, the nights you wake up screaming. Sometimes I'd see the same look on their faces I used to have, that edge between pride and pain. So I gave them something else to hold on to. One day, I wrote 3 words on the whiteboard. Stay alive. First, that became my mantra. I didn't preach. I didn't pretend to be better. I just told them the truth the streets never tell you. One night, after the center closed, I sat alone in the studio. The lights were low, the hum of the speakers soft. I played one of the kids' tracks, a slow beat, rough vocals but full of soul. And for the first time, I felt peace. I realized I'd spent my whole life trying to prove something to a street that never cared if I lived or died. Now, finally, I was building something that might outlast me. But peace don't come easy to people like me. The next week, I got a call. "Yo, Marcus, it's Darnell." His voice sounded urgent. "You seen the news?" "No." "What?" "They hit the center." My blood ran cold. "What?" "Drive by. Nobody died, but a kid got hit in the leg." They say it's Crips. Retaliation for something that went down last month. I close my eyes, anger flooding back like it never left. They just kids. I know, but they don't care. You know how it goes. I didn't even realize I was gripping my fist until I felt my nails dig into my palm. He said, "Don't do nothing stupid," but I was already halfway out the door. When I got there, the center was taped off. Police lights flashing. Kids crying. Ms. Elena talking to an officer, her hands shaking. I pushed through the crowd. "Who got hit?" "Deshaun," she said. "He's okay. Just his leg." But she looked at me, tears in her eyes. "Marcus, this can't keep happening." I looked at the bullet holes in the wall, the blood on the pavement. Something inside me cracked. I'd walked away from the life, but the life hadn't walked away from me. That night, I sat on my bed with the old bandana in my hand. I stared at it for a long time. I thought about what it used to mean. Brotherhood, power, purpose. Now it just looked like a flag planted on a graveyard. I stood up, walked outside, and tossed it into the trash fire behind the shop. Watched the flames curl around it, turning it to ash. "Rest now," I whispered. "You've done enough." Months passed. The center rebuilt. The kids came back. Deshaun walked again, limped, but smiled more than before. Sometimes the pain in my side still flared up when I moved too fast. A reminder, a scar I'd never hide, but it kept me honest. One evening, I was locking up the studio when a voice behind me said, "Yo, you Marcus Bell?" I turned. Young guy, mid-20s, blue hoodie, hand in pockets. "Who's his skin?" He stepped closer. Trey was my cousin. The air went still. He looked me dead in the eyes. "He told me about you. Said you used to be tight before the streets turned you against each other." I didn't answer. He nodded slowly. "I thought about coming for you. Plenty of times. But then I heard what you're doing here. Helping kids. Keep being ouchy." He paused. "So I had to see for myself if it's real." "It's real," I said quietly. He looked around the studio, nodded once. "Keep doing it." Then he turned and left. I stood there in silence for a long time. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel hate, just peace. Maybe that's what redemption feels like. Not forgiveness from others, but forgiveness from yourself. Years went by. The block I grew up on was gone. High-rises now. Coffee shops. Dog parks. Nobody remembered what it used to be. But every now and then I drive by just to feel it, that ghost of a heartbeat still buried in the pavement. I'd see kids skating down the same street we used to spill blood on, laughing like the world was brand new. And I'd smile, because maybe that's the point. We fight, we bleed, we die, but the world keeps turning. And if we're lucky, we leave behind something better than what we found. I still carry the scars. I still wake up some nights drenched in sweat. But when I walk into that youth center and see those kids smiling, rapping, painting, dreaming, I know I made it out for a reason. And maybe, just maybe, the block ain't dead. It just found a new heartbeat. Because the truth is, I didn't survive to forget where I came from. I survived to change what it means to come from there. And I ain't ever leaving again. Just not the same way I used to stay. Now I stay alive. I stay real. I stay free. I wasn't supposed to wake up today. Not after what went down last night. If the Crips or the cops find me breathing, they'll finish what they started. And it all began the morning they said our block was done for. You're watching Tales from the Block. Hit that like button and subscribe. I got real stories from the streets for you. I woke up to the sound of sirens echoing off the cracked concrete walls of my building. The sunlight was bleeding through the blinds, slicing across the red flag hanging over my window. I remember thinking it looked like the whole room was on fire, like the color itself knew what was coming. The phone was already buzzing on the nightstand. Group chat blowing up, get to the yard, Crips moving heavy on 84th, police out front. I sat up, rubbed my eyes, and for a second, I thought about just not answering. But this block raised me. My blood was in the pavement. My brother's name still sprayed on the wall across the street. Saint, that's what they called me, but I lost that halo a long time ago. I grabbed my red flannel, buttoned the middle, left the rest open. White tank top, khakis, black gloves. My .40 was still on the dresser, half-loaded, slide locked back. The handle was warm like it remembered me. By the time I stepped out, the air already smelled like gunpowder and heat. Helicopter shadows sliced over the rooftops. Kids were running bikes up the street, pretending they didn't see the cop cars posted at the end of the block. Down on Jefferson and 82nd, the set was already gathering. Red everywhere. Hoodies, flags, sneakers. The air felt tight. When that many blood stand in one spot, even the birds get quiet. "Saint, where you been at, homie?" I turned. It was Tone, short, thick, always grinning like he lived for trouble. He wore a red cap backward, black hoodie half-zipped, and his chain glinted under the sun. "Same spot, same mess," I said. "What's going on?" He looked around before answering. "Word is Crenshaw Crips linked up with the Hoover Fools. They trying to sweep us clean. Tonight." "Tonight?" He nodded. They hitting every house tied to the set. They already caught D-Lo on 89th. Cops rolled right after. This whole thing smelled like setup. I felt that in my chest. We'd been through wars before, drive-bys, turf checks, raids, but this sounded like extermination. Then I saw him, Marcus, our shot caller. Late 30s, eyes like stone, beard flecked with gray. He was standing on the hood of a beat-up Crown Vic, red rag tied tight around his wrist. He didn't yell to get silence. He just raised his hand, and every voice on the block died down. "Listen up," he said, voice calm but heavy. "They say tonight we done. They say we ghost by sunrise. You believe that?" The crowd roared, "Hell nah." Marcus nodded slowly. "Good, 'cause if they comin', we gotta make 'em remember why they never stepped on Jefferson before. But before we move, I need to know who's real. Ain't no halfway in this. You stay or you go, but if you stay, you ride till the end." Nobody moved, just heavy breathing, shifting feet, fists clenching. I could feel my heart beating like it wanted to jump out my chest. That choice, stay or go, it wasn't really a choice. This block made me. I wasn't going to let it die. Then it settled. Marcus said, "We hold down the block. Tonight, we make history." We spent the day locking down corners, passing ammo, checking cars. The air got hotter, thicker, like even the weather knew something bad was coming. I rolled with Tone and Lex, a quiet kid from the projects with a scar running down his cheek, earned from a fight he never talks about. We were posted near the liquor store, watching traffic. Every car that slowed down made my finger twitch. "Yo, you ever think about leaving?" Lex asked, eyes still scanning the street. "Leaving what?" I said, "All this. The block, the flags, the beef. You ever think there's more out there?" Tone laughed. "More? Ain't no more for people like us. This is it. You leave, you either end up broke, dead, or wishing you never left." I didn't say anything, but Lex's question stuck. I thought about my mom. She used to work nights at the clinic before she OD'd. My little brother was gone too, shot 3 years ago during a raid that wasn't meant for him. This block was all I had left of them. Still, part of me wondered, if I left, would the street even miss me? Or would just paint over my name and move on? Around noon, we hit Mama D's Deli, the only spot on the block still open, even during shootouts. The smell of fried chicken and grease hung in the air like memory. Mama D herself stood behind the counter, red nails, hair in rollers, frowned deep as the fryer oil. "Y'all out here making noise again?" she said. "Ain't you tired of burying each other?" Tone smirked. "We just protecting home, D." She shook her head, handed me a paper bag. "Home don't need guns, baby. Home need peace." I wanted to tell her she was right. But peace don't live here. Not on Jefferson. Not since the first time a blue car pulled up and emptied clips into a crowd just because someone wore red shoelaces. As we stepped out, Tone's phone buzzed. He looked down, face shifting from calm to panic. "Joe, they hit the spot." "What spot?" I asked. "Marcus crib. SWAT. They got him." I froze. "You sure?" "Man, they drag him out on live. They saying he wanted for 2 bodies. Somebody snitched." That word, snitched, hung heavier than gunfire. Everyone knew what it meant. Someone inside our set talked. Lex looked around. We need to fall back, regroup. Tone shook his head. Nah, Marcus gone. That mean they coming for the rest of us. We can't run. We make our stand right here. I want to believe him, but something in my gut twisted. By 3 p.m., the block felt like a war zone. Sirens screamed from every direction. The sound of gunshots echoed from 2 streets over. You could smell the smoke, burned rubber, trash fires, maybe worse. We regrouped behind the auto shop. About 12 of us left. Half of them kids who looked like they still should have been in school. Tone started passing clips around. We don't let nobody through. Crips, cops, whoever. They step on Jefferson, they bleed. He turned to me. Saint, you still down? I nodded, even though my chest felt tight. That's when Reese showed up, tall, slim, tattoo on his neck, that red loyalty. I hadn't seen him since last week. He walked straight toward us, calm as if the world wasn't collapsing. What's good, family, he said. Tone glared. Where you been, Reese? Where was you skip town? Reese smirked. Had to clean my head. You know how it is. But I noticed something. No sweat, no dust on his shoes, fresh hoodie. Too clean for a man who'd been laying low. Who told you Marcus got popped? I asked. He shrugged. Everybody know. Streets talk. Yeah, but not that fast. Something wasn't right. By sunset, the sky turned blood orange. The kind of color that makes everything feel like a movie right before the ending. We set up barricades at both ends of the street, dumpsters, cars, whatever we could move. Then came the sound, low rumble of engines. Headlights cutting through the smoke. Tone peeked around the corner. They hear. I gripped my piece tighter. My heart wasn't beating fast anymore. It was slow, steady, like it accepted what was about to happen. 3 blue Impalas rolled up, windows down, music thumping low. You could see flashes of movement inside, Crip colors glowing under streetlights. Hold, Tone whispered, but Reese moved first. He stepped out into the open, hands raised. What the hell is he doing? Lex hissed. Before we could move, one of the Impalas stopped right in front of him. The door opened, and the driver dapped him up. Tone's voice broke. That snake! Reese turned his head just long enough for me to see the look in his eyes. No guilt, no fear. Just survival. And the first shots rang out. Glass shattered, tires screeched, bullets tore through the barricades. I ducked behind a car, returned fire. The noise was deafening. You could taste metal in the air. Lex screamed, hit in the shoulder. I pulled him back, hands slipping on blood. Stay with me, bro, stay with me. Tone was yelling, spraying rounds down the street. 2 Crips dropped near the curb, but more kept coming. And above it all, I heard the distant whir of a helicopter. Police lights painted the street blue and red. We were trapped between enemies, one side gang, one side law. I looked around. The block I grew up on, the one I fought for, was burning. Smoke rising from rooftops, sirens closing in, friends bleeding out beside me. Tone crawled up next to me, chest heaving. We gotta fall back, Saint. They got numbers. But my mind was somewhere else, back to Marcus' words that morning. If they come in, we make 'em remember. I thought about Mama D, about Lex bleeding beside me, about my brother whose name was still on that wall. I ain't running, I said quietly. Tone stared at me like I'd lost it. You crazy? Maybe, but this block's all I got. The sirens grew louder, cops yelling through megaphones, bullets still flying. I looked down the street, Crips closing in, blue lights flashing, smoke everywhere. And in that moment, everything slowed down. The noise faded, the world went quiet, and I realized this wasn't about winning anymore. It was about being remembered. Tone grabbed my arm. If you stay, you die. I pulled away. Then I guess I die where I lived. He hesitated, then nodded once. Eyes wet, mouth tight. Then he ran, disappearing through the alley as the last light of day hit the red flag around my neck. I stepped out from behind the car, gun raised, smoke stinging my eyes. And that's when I saw Reese again, standing in the middle of the street beside the Crips, smirking like he'd already buried me. Our eyes met across the chaos. He lifted his gun. I lifted mine, and the world exploded into light. The world turned white for a second. Not from heaven, from muzzle flash. When a noise came back, it wasn't just gunfire. It was screaming, tires burning, glass raining down. I hit the ground behind a busted sedan, ears ringing like church bells after the sermon. My hands were shaking, but my aim wasn't. I peeked up and saw Reese stuck behind an Impala, blue bandana tied tight, talking to somebody on his radio. He wasn't just with them. He was leading them. So that was it. The snitch wasn't some faceless name. It was family. A bullet snapped past my cheek, took a chunk out the rearview mirror. I rolled under the car, crawled out the other side. The asphalt was hot as hell, still holding the day's sun. My lungs tasted like smoke and gunpowder. I caught sight of Lex, slumped against a trash can, hand pressed to his shoulder. He was pale, blood soaking through his shirt. "Saint, help me, bro. I got you." I dragged him toward the alley behind the auto shop, bullets pinging off the walls. Myers couldn't tell if it was cops or Crips anymore. Both sounded like the same death. Inside the alley, it smelled like rotten oil. A cat bolted past. The brick walls were tagged with old blood graffiti, faded reds, words half erased by time. I leaned Lex against the dumpster. "You hit bad." He tried to laugh, but it came out like a cough. Just a scratch. He was lying. I tore off my flannel, wrapped it around his arm to stop the bleeding. His eyes fluttered. "Stay with me, man. You hear me? Stay." He nodded weakly. "Where's Tone?" "Gone." Had to fall back. Lex closed his eyes. Smart move. I wanted to tell him I'd drag him out, that everything would be fine. But the street don't like liars. The sound of engines roared closer, more blue lights flashing off the alley walls. Helicopter spotlights swept over the rooftops, painting everything in white ghosts. Lex grabbed my wrist. "Saint, if I don't make it, don't start that. Don't let them take the block. Don't let them take us." I squeezed his hand and stood up. "I won't." When I turned toward the mouth of the alley, I saw two shadows creeping. Rifles up, moving slow. Police. Tactical vests. No warning, no negotiation. They shouted something. Maybe hands up, maybe freeze. I didn't hear. My instincts moved first. I fired twice, then ducked back. Brick dust exploded where their bullets hit. I wasn't trying to kill them. Just stay alive long enough to make sense of all this. I cut through the backyards, fences, alleys, abandoned houses, until I reached June's barbershop, the old hangout spot. The windows were boarded, but I knew the backdoor trick. One kick and I was inside. The shop was dark except for the flicker of small TV in the corner, still playing the news. Police and gang violence continued to erupt in Southside Jefferson. Sources say this may be the largest crackdown in decades. They showed Marcus in cuffs, face down on the sidewalk. Cameras everywhere. Reporters talking like it was just another statistic. Then they showed a drone shot of the block, smoke, flashing lights, bodies on the ground. I turned off the TV. That's when I heard a voice behind me. "Knew I'd find you here." Tone stepped out from the shadows, sweat shining on his forehead. His gun was tucked in his waistband, eyes wide. "You alive?" I said. "Barely." "You still breathing?" He looked around the empty shop. "Where's Lex?" I didn't answer right away. Tone's jaw tightened. "Don't tell me." "He's hit bad. I had to leave him. Cops were closing in." He punched the counter hard. "Damn it." We stood there in silence, just breathing. Then he said, quieter, "You see who set us up, right? Reese." "Yeah." Tone nodded, staring at the floor. "Figures. Always thought he was too calm for this life. Guess he'd been calm cause he already had an exit. He's with the Crips now. Rolling with them like we never meant nothing." Tone looked up, eyes dark. "Then we end him. Tonight." The way he said it didn't sound like revenge. It sounded like purpose. I should have stopped him, told him it wasn't worth it. But when you lose everything in one night, revenge becomes the only thing that makes sense. We loaded up. 2 clips each. 1 grenade Tone had been saving for special occasions. This felt special enough. The streets were empty now, everyone hiding or gone. Helicopters still circled, spotlights slicing through the smoke. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked, then went silent. We cut down 85th, past burned-out cars and broken glass. Every step echoed like we were walking through a graveyard of our own people. Tone broke the silence. You ever think Marcus was wrong? I frowned. About what? All this never-run talk. All this pride. Look where it got us. I didn't know what to say. He kicked a can down the street. Man, I love this block. Still do. But sometimes I think the block don't love us back. That hit harder than any bullet. I looked around. The graffiti, the boarded-up stores, the burned houses. Every wall had a name of someone dead. Maybe the block was just a cemetery pretending to be home. But I couldn't let it go. Still, I said, if we don't stand for it, nobody will. Tone nodded slowly. Guess you still a saint, huh? Guess so. We found Reese near the basketball court, posted up with 2 Crips and a car full of guns. They were laughing like it was a block party. I ducked behind a fence, peeking through a crack. Tone whispered, "You take the left, I take the right. We end this quick." But before we could move, a light hit us, bright, blinding. Freeze! Police! Spotlights! Megaphone voices. They came out of nowhere. Unmarked SUVs sliding in from both ends of the street. SWAT uniforms spilling out like shadows. We were surrounded. Tone cursed under his breath. They was waiting for us. And then I realized Reese had set the bait. He wasn't just working with the Crips. He was working with the cops too. They wanted all of us in one place, to clean the streets in one sweep. Tone looked at me. "You run. I'll cover." "Kid, no. Don't argue, Saint. I started this. You finish it." He fired first, wild, desperate, but enough to draw attention. SWAT shouted, returned fire. I dove behind a dumpster, heart pounding. I saw Tone go down, not graceful, not slow, just gone. His red cap rolled into the street. I bit down hard, forced myself not to yell. Reese was still standing near the car, hands up like he was innocent. A cop grabbed him, cuffed him, but I could tell it was just for show. They walked him past the others without even searching him. And as he passed Tone's body, he kicked the red cap out of the way. That was it. The last line. I waited until the police moved deeper into the court, then slipped through a side alley, keeping low. My lungs were on fire, legs shaking, mind spinning. By midnight, I was the last one left free. Lex dead or dying. Tone gone. Marcus in custody. The block surrounded. I broke into an abandoned house near 83rd. Old furniture, dust, bullet holes in the wall from years before. I sat down by the window, reloaded the last clip I had, and just listened. Outside, the city sounded like a beast choking on its own smoke. Sirens, distant screams, engines revving. I looked at my hands, shaking, stained. Didn't know if it was blood, oil, or both. That's when I heard a whisper from the next room. "Saint." I froze. It was a woman's voice, soft, trembling. I raised my gun, moved slow. When I pushed the door open, I saw Nia, Lex's sister. She must have been hiding here the whole time. Her eyes were red, face streaked with tears. She still wore her apron from the diner. "Jesus, Jalen," she said. "You still alive?" "Barely." She ran up, hugged me hard. Her body shook against mine. "They killed him, didn't they?" I didn't answer. That was enough. She stepped back, wiping her face. "What now? Now?" I said, "We survive till morning." But even as I said it, I didn't believe it. She looked at me, really looked. "You don't have to die here, Jalen. Come with me. We can leave. I got cousins out in Bakersfield. Nobody'll find us." I shook my head. "If I leave, who's left to remember?" "Remember what?" she said, voice breaking. "This street? These colors? They don't remember you. They only remember the dead." Her words cut deep, but she wasn't wrong. Still, I couldn't go. Not like this. Not while Reese walked free, laughing under the same sky my brother died under. She saw it in my eyes. "You're going after him." I didn't speak. "Then promise me one thing," she said. "If you make it out, don't come back." I touched her cheek. "You know I can't promise that." I left before dawn. The sky was gray, rain starting to fall. Light at first, then harder. The whole block looked washed out, like the world was trying to rinse off the blood. I moved like a ghost, cutting through alleys, past police tape and smoking cars. The rain mixed with the dust, turning everything to mud. Reese's spot wasn't hard to find. Word travels fast even when the streets are quiet. A Crip safe house on 89th, old apartment complex, windows boarded except for one glowing blue TV light. I crouched behind a dumpster across the street, watching. 2 guards outside, smoking. I could take them if I was fast. But before I moved, something strange happened. The police cars that had been circling all night rolled up and parked right in front. No sirens, no lights, just silent. Out came a detective, suit, badge chain, umbrella. He walked straight past the guards, no resistance. They let him in. That's when it hit me. Reese wasn't just an informant. He was protected. And the raid, the chaos, Marcus's arrest, all of it was part of a deal. He sold us for freedom. My vision tunneled. I didn't even feel the rain anymore. I pulled the bandana tighter around my neck, took a deep breath, and stepped out. 2 shots, fast, clean. The guards dropped before they even looked up. I kicked the door open. The hallway stank of smoke and cheap liquor. Inside, Reese was sitting on the couch, laughing with the detective. They both turned when they saw me. For a second, nobody moved. Then Reese smiled. "Saint, you still alive? Looks that way." The detective raised his hands. "Put the gun down, son." I didn't even look at him. My eyes stayed on Reese. "What?" I asked. "Why'd you do it?" He shrugged. "You ever get tired of fighting a war you can't win? That's your excuse." He leaned back. "My choice. I'm walking free tomorrow. No more raids, no more hiding. You could have done the same." I stepped closer. "You think freedom come from deals with cops?" He grinned. "Freedom come from surviving. Something you ain't gonna do." He moved for his gun, too slow. I fired once into his shoulder. He screamed, dropped to the floor. The detective reached for his piece, but I kicked it away. "Stay down." Reese was bleeding, clutching his arm. "You gonna kill me?" I raised the gun, hands steady. But when I looked in his eyes, I saw something that stopped me. Not fear, not guilt, just emptiness. Like he'd already died inside. "Not tonight," I said. I turned to leave, but outside I could already hear sirens closing in. The detective must have hit his radio. I ran up the stairs, kicked through the rooftop door, and stepped out into the rain. Helicopter lights cut through the clouds, voices yelling from below. I walked to the edge, looked down at the block, the same streets I'd bled for, burning under the morning sky. Every memory I had was written here, in bullet holes, in graffiti, in ghosts. I took off the red bandana, stared at it for a long moment, then tied it around the antenna, sticking from the roof like a flag. If this was the end, I wanted the city to see who we were. Then I turned, gun still warm in my hand, and disappeared into the storm. The first gunshot cracked through the morning like thunder, echoing off the brick walls before I even saw who fired it. I ducked instinctively, my heart slamming against my ribs. The block was wide awake now. No more warnings, no more tension. This was war. I crawled behind a broken-down Buick, the smell of gasoline and dust filling my lungs. A bullet ripped through the driver's door, sending metal shards flying. My ears rang. I could barely hear the chaos, just muffled shouts, distant sirens, and the sharp whistle of bullets cutting air. I peeked out from behind the car and saw our corner store, Tony's Deli, getting lit up. Windows shattered, glass rained down. Across the street, figures in blue bandanas were moving through the smoke, ducking between parked cars, rifles glinting in the dim light. "Joe, get to the back. Move." Darnell's voice cut through the chaos. He was waving his arm from the alley behind the laundromat, his hoodie half soaked with blood. I didn't know if it was his or somebody else's. I sprinted low, keeping my head down, boots slipping on broken glass. My mind was blank, just movement, just survival. When I reached the alley, I crashed behind a dumpster, chest heaving. Darnell slammed another mag into his pistol, eyes wild. "They came early," he said. "Way too early. Somebody told him where we was at." My stomach dropped. "You mean?" "Yeah," he hissed. Somebody in our own set. That word, traitor, echoed louder than any gunshot. I pressed my back against the wall, thinking about who wasn't there. Rashad hadn't shown up. Neither had Kev. My gut twisted. Darnell kept watch, eyes scanning the alley. The block was shaking. The deep rumble of engines rolled closer. It wasn't just foot soldiers. Trucks, SUVs. They rollin' heavy, Darnell said under his breath. Crips, maybe even some East Side boys. They trying to wipe us clean. A car screeched at the end of the street, doors flying open. The sound of automatic fire poured out like rain. The air stank of burnt rubber and gunpowder. I peeked again and saw three of our guys, Deuce, Lilmont, and Rico, pinned behind the stoop of Miss Gloria's house. They were returning fire, but they were boxed in. We gotta help them, I said. Darnell shook his head. We can't save everybody, man. You run out there, you dead. I grabbed his shoulder. There are people. For a second, he looked like he wanted to argue, but then he saw something in my eyes and cursed under his breath. All right, on my count. We bolted out from cover. The ground exploded near my feet. Bullets tore through the air like angry bees. I slid behind a parked van next to the stoop, firing blindly down the block. Yo, we thought y'all left us. Deuce shouted, ducking low. Not yet, I yelled back. Miss Gloria's front porch was torn apart. Splintered wood, busted flower pots, blood on the steps. Deuce was bleeding from his leg, trying to tie it off with a bandana. Stay low, I said. We gotta fall back to the laundromat. But when I looked that way, I saw blue bandanas moving in. They were closing the circle. They got us surrounded, Darnell barked. I felt a strange calm wash over me. My mind went quiet, like everything slowed down. The smell of smoke, the flicker of sunlight on bullet shells, the sound of somebody praying in Spanish 2 doors down. Then I saw him, a tall figure at the far end of the street, walking slow, confident. Blue hoodie, gold chain swinging, AK in hand. It was Trey, one of the Crip lieutenants. We used to hoop together before this street stuff took over. But now his eyes were cold, like he was already dead inside. He raised his gun, aimed straight at us. I grabbed Deuce and shoved him down just as the wall behind us exploded in sparks. We crawled across the porch, glass cutting into my palms. Darnell returned fire, shouting curses, but Trey didn't even flinch. More of them came, 5, 6, maybe more. We had to move. Now, through the house. I yelled. We kicked in Miss Gloria's door. She screamed from the kitchen, clutching a Bible, and we ran straight through, out the back. I yelled, "Get down, Ma! Get down!" as we passed. The backyard was chaos. Fences torn down, smoke drifting from burning trash cans. Darnell jumped the gate first, helping Deuce over. I followed last, just as bullets ripped through the fence behind me. We stumbled into the next alley, coughing. My hands were shaking. I looked down, blood. Not mine, not all of it anyway. Deuce collapsed by the wall, his face pale. Hold pressure, I told him, pressing my hand to his thigh. He winced, but didn't scream. Stay with me, bro. Darnell knelt beside me. He ain't gonna make it if we don't get him out of here. I shook my head. Ambulance ain't coming. Cops ain't coming. We on our own. The truth hit hard. No one cared if we lived or died. To them, we were just headlines. We heard shouting. More Crips sweeping the block. Darnell cursed and stood up. We can't stay here. We gotta regroup with whoever's left. I looked down at Deuce, who could barely breathe. He can't move. Darnell hesitated, jaw tight. Then we move without him. I looked him dead in the eye. You go. I'll stay. He stared at me for a long second. You stay, you die. I didn't answer. He finally nodded once. No more words, and took off down the alley. When he was gone, I sat with Deuce, trying to keep him awake. He smiled weakly. Yo, you always was the stupid, loyal type. Shut up, I said, pressing harder on the wound. He coughed, spitting blood. Ain't your fault, man. Street's been dying long before us. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Don't say that. He looked up at the gray sky, eyes glassy. If I go, don't let them take our block. Then he was gone. I sat there for a moment, just listening to the distant gunfire. My hands were red. My clothes were torn. My chest felt hollow. I picked up his pistol and slipped it into my waistband. Then I stood. The world around me felt unreal, like I was moving through a bad dream. Smoke rolled through the streets. Sirens wailed in the distance. Somewhere, a car alarm kept blaring, echoing endlessly. When I stepped back onto the main road, I saw it. The end of our world. The old corner store was burning. The murals, the tags, the benches gone. Everything that made this block ours was turning to ash. And in the middle of it all stood Trey and his crew. I could see them dragging one of our guys, Kev, by the hoodie. He was on his knees, hands up, bleeding from his face. Trey laughed, smacked him with the rifle. So Kev was the snitch. The realization hit like a punch. Trey looked right at me, even for half a block away. Our eyes locked. Then he lifted the AK and pointed it my way. I ducked behind a burned car, just before bullets tore through the metal. I returned fire, squeezing until the clip clicked empty. My ears were ringing, my vision blurring. "Come on out, blood," Trey shouted. His voice echoed down the block, taunting. "Ain't no Savon this set. It's over." I stayed low, breathing hard. My mind raced. I could run, slip out through the back streets, disappear. Nobody would blame me. But when I looked up, through the heat, the smoke, the chaos, I saw the mural across the wall, "Long live Kilo." He was one of the first to die for this block. He raised me when I had nobody. I clenched my jaw. No, I wasn't running. Not today. I loaded the last mag I had, took a deep breath, and stepped out. Trey's crew was spread out, moving in pairs. I fired, dropped one. Another ducked behind a mailbox. Bullets cracked past my head. One grazed my shoulder, burning like fire. I stumbled back, bleeding but kept shooting. My hands are steady now. No fear, no shaking. Just purpose. I moved between cars, using the smoke as cover. My whole body screamed from exhaustion, but adrenaline kept me going. Then I saw Trey again, closer this time. He was reloading behind a pickup, grinning like he owned the world. I charged forward, firing until I was out. He turned, surprised, as I tackled him into the dirt. The gun flew from his hand. We rolled, fists swinging. He was bigger, stronger. He slammed my head into the pavement. My vision flashed white. "Should have stayed out of this, blood," he growled, choking me. "This block ain't yours no more." I gasped, reaching for something, anything, and my hand found the pistol tucked in my waistband. I pressed it under his ribs and pulled the trigger twice. His body went limp instantly. For a long moment, I just lay there, staring at the sky. Smoke drifted above me like ghosts. My chest rose and fell, each breath heavier than the last. Then I pushed him off and got up. I looked around. The street was quiet now. Most of the Crips had scattered after their leader dropped. Only the sound of distant sirens filled the silence. I stumbled back toward the corner store, past bodies, past shattered glass, past memories. Every step hurt. When I reached the intersection, I saw Darnell coming from the other side, limping, blood on his face. "You still here?" he said, almost laughing. "Yeah," I breathed. "Still here." He looked around at the wreckage. "Ain't much left." "Doesn't matter," I said. "We held it." He nodded slowly. "We did." But then the rumble of engines grew louder again. Police this time. Black SUVs, lights flashing. Darnell's eyes went wide. "Cops. They clearing the block. We gotta go." I looked down the street one last time. The homes, the graffiti, the memories. Then I turned back to him. "You go," I said. "I ain't running no more." "What you mean?" "I am staying. Somebody gotta represent." He grabbed my arm. "Bro, they'll lock you up or kill you." I pulled free. "Then they'll know who owned this block till the end." We stared at each other. Two broken soldiers from a war that never had winners. Then he nodded once. Respect. And he was gone. I stood in the middle of the street as the police rolled in. Their lights painted everything red and blue, the colors that tore our world apart. Guns raised. Command shouted. I dropped my weapon, hands high. As they cuffed me and pushed me to the ground, I looked up at the burning sky and whispered to myself, "This street raised me. This street buried me. But I ain't ever left it." The block was gone, but I was still here. Still blood. Still loyal. Still standing. Even if I had to stand alone. The cell was cold. Not just cold like the air, cold like it had memory. Like it remembered every lost soul who sat here before me, staring at the same cracked wall, wondering where all went wrong. I sat on that concrete bench with my wrists cuffed, blood dried on my shirt, Trey's face flashing in my mind every time I blinked. The echo of the shots still lived in my ears. The cops didn't ask questions at first. They didn't need to. They already had their story, another gang shootout, another name to throw on the news. They called it urban violence. To them, it was just statistics. To me, it was my whole world burning down. I stared at my reflection in the metal toilet, the faint red and blue light flickering through the bars. My eyes looked dead, older, like I'd aged 10 years overnight. They finally came for me. 2 detectives, 1 white, 1 Latino, both looking like they'd seen this story 100 times before. Marcus Bell, right? The white one said, flipping through his file. 19, affiliated with the Bloods, East Vernon set. "We got you on the scene of a multiple homicide. Want to tell us what the hell happened out there?" I didn't say a word. He smirked. "Of course not. You boys never do." The Latino detective leaned forward. "We know you shot Trey Carter. We got witnesses." I looked up, finally meeting his eyes. "Then why you asking?" He leaned back, nodded slowly. "Because we want to know why. Why stay when everyone else ran? Why kill him?" I hesitated. I wanted to tell him the truth, that it wasn't about pride or territory or colors. It was about something deeper, something the streets carve into you until it's all you got left. Loyalty. But I knew he wouldn't understand. None of them ever did. So I said nothing. He sighed. "You're looking at 20 to life, kid. Maybe more. You cooperate. Maybe we help you out." I smiled weakly. Ain't nothing left to cooperate for. He studied me for a second, then closed the file. "You think you're some kind of soldier, huh? You think dying for that block makes you a man?" I stared at the wall. "I don't think nothing. I just did what I had to." He shook his head. "You're gonna rot in here, kid." "Maybe," I said quietly. "But at least I ain't running." They left me alone after that. Hours passed. Maybe days, I don't know. Time didn't exist in that room. Just the hum of the fluorescent lights and the weight of everything I'd lost pressing down on my chest. When they finally let me out, it wasn't because they had mercy. It was because they didn't have proof. Nobody wanted to talk. Nobody saw anything. That's the block code, silence. So they dropped the murder, but hit me with possession, obstruction, and assault. I did a year in county. Enough time to lose myself completely. Every night, I'd hear it. The echoes of gunfire, the screams, the sirens. And I'd see their faces. Deuce, Rashad, Darnell, Trey, even Kev, the snitch. They haunted me. By the time I got out, the world had moved on. The block was quiet, too quiet. Half the buildings boarded up, graffiti faded. The corner store was gone, burned to its skeleton. Kids who used to hang out on the steps were nowhere. New cars, new faces, but the same emptiness in the air. I walked through it like a ghost. They told me Darnell skipped town a few weeks after everything went down. Probably in Atlanta, maybe Houston. He'd always talked about leaving. I couldn't blame him. But me, I couldn't leave. Not after everything. I went back to my mother's old place. The paint was peeling, the mailbox broken, but it was home. I sat on the porch and listened to the city breathe. Traffic in the distance, police helicopters chopping through the night sky, stray dogs barking in the alleys. It felt like the block itself was still alive. Barely, but alive. That's when I saw them. 2 cars pulled up slow. Blacked out windows, bass thumping low. I knew that sound before I even saw the faces. Not cops. Not strangers. Crips. They weren't done. I ducked inside the house, heart pounding. I grabbed the only thing I had, a rusted .38 I'd stashed under the floorboard years ago. Through the curtains, I saw 4 of them get out. young, hungry, looking to prove something. They didn't come to talk. I heard one shout, "Yo, come out, blood. We know you here." I stayed low, peeking from the corner of the window. They spread out, checking the yard. My pulse was loud in my ears. Then one of them, short dude, blue beanie, probably no older than 16, stepped on the porch and kicked the door. The wood cracked. I aimed, waiting. The second kick broke it open. He stepped through, and I pulled the trigger. The sound was deafening in the small room. He dropped instantly, body hitting the floor hard. The others shouted, ducking behind cars. Glass shattered. Bullets tore through the walls. I hit the ground, crawling behind the couch. Plaster rained down. My hands were shaking, my heart racing, but my mind was clear. I'd been here before. They thought they were coming for revenge. But so was I. I moved to the kitchen, crouched by the back door. I fired through the window, hitting one in the leg. He screamed, dropped his gun. The others fired back, ripping holes through the walls. I ran out the back, cutting through the alley. The cold air slapped me in the face, smoke in my lungs. I could hear them chasing, footsteps, shouting. I ducked behind a trash bin, waited. One came around the corner, breathing hard. I grabbed him, slammed him against the wall, pressed the barrel to his neck. "Who sent you?" I hissed. He trembled, eyes wide. "It ain't me, man. It's Rico's cousin. He said you." I didn't let him finish. The rage came too fast, too heavy. I hit him once, twice, dropped him. My knuckles were bleeding. My soul felt worse. I backed away, breathing hard. My chest burned. My mind screamed to me to stop, but I couldn't. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about ghosts. Every bullet I fired was for someone I couldn't save. I disappeared into the dark, cutting through the back streets. The city looked different now, more neon, more broken. I could see the skyline glowing miles away, but down here it was all shadows. When I finally stopped, I found myself at the playground where we used to hang as kids. The swings creaked in the wind. The paint on the slide was rusted and chipped. I sat on the same bench where I used to sit with Kilo, back when he was alive. Back when we thought we'd be legends. "You see this, bro?" I whispered. "All of it gone. All of us gone." I felt tears burning in my eyes, but refused to let them fall. The street don't cry for you. It buries you and moves on. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. "Still breathing?" It was Darnell. His voice sounded rough, tired but alive. "Barely," I said. "I heard what went down," he said. "They coming for you, man. Word on the street is Crips put a price on your head. 10 grand. I laughed bitterly. 10 grand? That's what I'm worth now. "Listen," he said. "You need to get out. Tonight. I got people in Texas who can hide you." I looked around. The empty park, the broken swings, the fading tag on the wall that read EBK. Everybody killing. I shook my head. "I ain't leaving." He sighed. "You trying to die for a block that don't exist no more? This block made me who I am." "That's the problem, bro," he said quietly. "It made us who we was, not who we could be." Silence. Just the wind between us. "Take care, Darnell," I said. "Marcus." I hung up. For a long time, I just sat there. The night air was heavy, cold. The smell of smoke and rain mixed together. The scent of endings. I thought about what he said. About leaving. About starting over. But where would I go? Who would I be? Every scar, every memory, every drop of blood tied me to this place. And then, like fate, I saw headlights cutting through the street again. A van this time. No music. No plats. They weren't done. I stood slowly, gripping the gun tighter. My body was tired, my soul worse, but there was still something inside me. Something unbroken. They parked halfway down the block. Doors opened. 5 of them stepped out. Blue hoodies. Masks. Heavy artillery. This wasn't just revenge. This was cleanup. They were coming to erase me. The last piece of what used to be the East Vernon Bloods. I took a deep breath. No more running. No more talking. I walked right into the middle of the street. The wet asphalt glistened under the streetlight. The city was silent, watching. They saw me, raise their guns. One shouted, "It's him! Drop him!" I didn't even lift my weapon at first. I just stared at them. All these kids, barely grown, chasing the same ghost I once did. You think this life gonna make you somebody? I yelled. It just kills you slower. They hesitated, just for a second. Then the shooting started. I dove behind a car as bullets shredded the air. Sparks flew, glass shattered. I rolled, came up firing. My shots echoed down the street like thunder. Two went down quick. The others kept coming. I felt a sharp sting in my side. Bullet grazed me. I gritted my teeth and kept firing. One charged close. I met him halfway, slammed him into the hood of a car, grabbed his rifle, and turned it on the last two. The sound was deafening. The night swallowed it all. When the smoke cleared, it was silent again. Bodies on the ground. Steam rising from bullet holes in the cars. My breathing ragged. My blood dripping onto the street. I leaned against a lamppost, clutching my side. I looked around. The same street where I grew up, where we used to play tag, where Kilo used to laugh. Now it was a graveyard, and I realized something I'd never said out loud before. The block didn't belong to us. We belonged to it. It fed on us, used us, and when it was done, it left nothing behind but ghosts. I looked up at the flickering light, whispering to nobody. I stayed. I fought. But maybe the only way to win is to leave. My vision blurred. I stumbled forward, dropping the gun. The street spun around me. I thought about my mom, my brother, Darnell Deuce, everyone I'd ever lost. Then everything went black.